speaker is Hannah Phillips from the Arab Organization of Human Rights.
Thank you. Hi, thank you all for gathering here this evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to quickly address you this evening. And I'd like to thank the other speakers for their great contributions this afternoon. So the Arab Organization for Human Rights in the UK is here today because Yemen is in the midst of a humanitarian catastrophe, which is being perpetuated by the UK's support for the Saudi-led coalition. The war in Yemen, which is the world's current worst humanitarian crisis, has now reached its 4th year. Any signs of a humanitarian situation improving are non-existent. To the contrary, the UN Office for Humanitarian Affairs just a couple of days ago have stated that in recent months the cholera outbreak is increasingly affecting more people. Between the 1st of January and the middle of March this year, there have been more than another 100,000 new reported cases of cholera. Furthermore, the malnutrition rates continue to rise, and the more people who are subject to extreme food insecurity continues to grow. The international community continues to refer to these extreme food shortages as a famine. But let's be clear, a famine is the result of natural occurrences. If there is a drought, if your livestock die of disease. What we are seeing in Yemen is food being used as a weapon of war, and the distribution of food being helped, which is leading to starvation. This is different from famine. This is man-made, and there are perpetrators who can be held accountable for this. As we know, the UK has sold billions of pounds worth of weapons to the Saudi-led coalition since the beginning of the conflict. And we know from clear data from many reputable sources that demonstrate British weapons are directly resulting in the death of civilians. Britain supplies Saudi with fighter jets, as we know, and airstrikes are the main cause of civilian death. By continuing to sell these weapons to the Saudi regime without any independent investigations is illegal and makes us complicit in war crimes. Yesterday, leaders of the opposition parties here in the UK made a very welcome letter to the government, making their position clear, which called for an end of the sale of weapons to Saudi in light of the war crimes committed in Yemen. So they've made their point clear, as of the states like Canada, Spain, Germany, Denmark, the Human Rights Council, the European Parliament have all made their positions clear that weapons should be halted to the sale to Saudi. But despite this internal pressure and international pressure, the Foreign Secretary seems happy to continue to sell weapons to Saudi, even despite an all-party committee report that said that British sales to Saudi are, quote, on the wrong side of the law. In fact, Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt is so hell-bent on the pursuit of profit for the arms industry that he has lobbied Germany to reinstate its sale of weapons to Saudi. This is symbolic of the Tory party's position on this conflict, which is to fully support the British arms industry's pursuit of profit at the cost of upholding international law and humanitarian rights. As part of the international community, it is imperative that the bombardment of vital infrastructure, the restriction of aid, food being used as a weapon of war, and deliberate targeting of civilians by airstrike does not become normalised and standard and tolerated for the sake of economic interest. Given the impact of the British arms industry which are having on the population of Yemen by prolonging a futile war, we urge the British government and the Foreign Office to immediately reconsider its relationship with Saudi Arabia and to help bring about formal accountability measures against those responsible for international crimes. Clear violations of humanitarian law by the Saudi-led coalition must be treated with the utmost severity. The Arab Organization for Human Rights in the UK calls upon the UK government to act swiftly to halt any further violations taking place by stopping its sale of weapons to Saudi Arabia. We also call for an independent and transparent investigation to be opened into how British-made weapons are being used to commit war crimes. Furthermore, we call on the Office of the Public Prosecutor at the ICC to open an independent investigation into the UK's involvement in the grave war crimes that are taking place in the war in Yemen. Action is imperative and the time to act is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. Hands off Yemen. Stop the bombing now.
Hands off Yemen. Stop the bombings now.